8 Chinese firms and 12 nationals, all sanctioned by Washington to combat the illegal fentanyl trade.
Global fentanyl supply chain often starts with chemical companies in China.
Is China planting illegal drug farms on U.S. soil?
But Oklahoma has been the epicenter on that.
A look at how Chinese crime groups may be ushering a wave of violence on American soil. A power source serving the Pacific under Beijing's control. Why is China's latest move in Peru sparking fears in the West? And an embrace between 2 Chinese sports stars has vanished from China's internet. What makes this celebratory photo such a sensitive subject for Beijing? What do you think? Let us know below and subscribe if you haven't already. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. 8 firms and 12 nationals. That's how many the U.S. sanctioned on Tuesday, and a sweeping action to fight the fentanyl trade. It's one of the biggest actions the Biden administration has taken against trafficking of the illegal drug. Let's zoom in.
The 8 indictments charge 8 China-based companies and 12 employees with crimes relating to fentanyl and meth production, distribution of synthetic opioids, and sales resulting from precursor chemicals. Federal prosecutors accused some Chinese companies of shipping chemicals used to make fentanyl to the U.S. and Mexican drug cartels under fake labels. None of the defendants have been arrested so far. The Treasury Department also said it imposed sanctions on 28 people and entities involved, including a large China-based network.
And we know that this global fentanyl supply chain, which ends with the deaths of Americans, often starts with chemical companies in China.
I have ordered my colleagues at the Treasury Department to expand our targeting approach to include the friends, family members, and affiliates of criminals that benefit from the sale of these drugs. If you benefit from the proceeds of these illicit activities, we're going to come after your assets.
Fentanyl is the deadliest drug in the U.S. today. The CDC says drug overdose deaths have increased more than 7-fold from 2015 to 2021.
More than 100,000 deaths a year have been linked to drug overdoses since 2020, and about 2/3 of them are related to fentanyl. In a related update, brazen drug use in broad daylight and a record number of overdose deaths. A drug crisis is hitting San Francisco hard, with an average of 5 overdose deaths every 2 days in August. Among those who died, nearly 80% tested positive for fentanyl. U.S. officials say most of it trafficked into America comes from China. NTD's David Zhang spoke to San Francisco-based reporter Jason Blair for more.
Jason, thanks for joining us today. You have been reporting on crime and drugs from San Francisco for quite some time now. Could you please break down the situation in San Francisco for us? What are the levels of drug overdose?
Yeah, so drug overdose has been a hot topic lately, unfortunately. This past August, there has been 84 overdoses recorded, which is a record high tying January this year for overdose deaths in the city. So far, 2023 is looking like it's going to be the deadliest year so far since records have been kept since 2020. 2020 had a pretty high rate of overdose deaths with about 720. And people are saying if things continue as they are now in 2023, it's going to get up into the 800s.
So why is the problem getting worse despite all the public and media attention that have been paid to this crisis?
The fentanyl is being made in China, going through the cartels through Mexico. So it's just the factor of how much is actually coming into the city. Then there's the factor of how are the drug dealers being held accountable.
Over 1 million acres of Oklahoma farmland owned by foreign entities, and groups from nations like China are, quote, 100% using the land to grow drugs. That's according to Oklahoma Senator James Lankford.
But Oklahoma has been the epicenter on that.
Enticed by cheap land prices, Chinese organized crime groups are buying up farms in Oklahoma to grow and illegally sell marijuana. And that number of farms has skyrocketed.
We have seen over and over again individuals that have come across our southern border illegally that are Chinese nationals that end up in the marijuana farms, and they're working off their debt, literally being moved from farm to farm to farm.
Oklahoma currently has over 6,000 licensed marijuana farms. Authorities believe that 1/3 of them have connections to China. More than 800 illegal farms have already been shut down in recent years, and roughly 75% are linked to China. The senator says the operations have brought a new wave of violent crime to the state.
It has also led to a tremendous amount of human trafficking and sex trafficking.
Now, Langford is pushing for a new bill called the Soil Act. It aims to limit and tighten oversight on foreign countries buying land in Oklahoma. But Chinese crime groups are said to be eyeing other states, too.
If that's happening in Oklahoma, what is happening in the rest of the nation?
According to authorities, China's presence can be found at illegal grows in Oklahoma, California, and Oregon. The ramp-up of Chinese-funded drug cultivation has caught the attention of legislators, specifically whether the money is coming from groups with connections to the Chinese Communist Party. A senior fellow at the Brookings Institution told Politico that the CCP has a complex link to organized crime, noting the triads often curry favor with the CCP by functioning as its off-the-books enforcers. The regime, in turn, turns a blind eye to their operations, but without direct control of them. China's military foothold inching closer to the United States. What key choke points has China taken control of in Latin America? And a look at Washington's latest concerns about Chinese moves in Peru. NTD's Juliet Song has the story.
An alert from Washington. The U.S. has reportedly raised concerns with Peru about Chinese control of its critical infrastructure. A single Chinese company provides electricity to half of the population in Lima, Peru's capital. Another Chinese company is waiting to buy control of the other half. The deal is now waiting for approval. But it's not just electricity. Chinese shipping company COSCO has a 60% stake in Chiangkai, a deep-water port that can host both military and commercial ships. That's according to a report from the Financial Times. NTD has reached out to the State Department for comment, but did not hear back before airtime. Chinese influence in Peru is just one thorn in the side of U.S. security.
Senator, what I would like to mention are my two greatest concerns strategically, and that's with the Panama Canal, the projects that the Chinese have around the Panama Canal, which is a strategic line of communication that we want to keep free and open for the global economy, but also for our global war plans.
The Panama Canal is one of the world's most important waterways. About 6% of global trade passes through its waters. China has been eyeing control in the area. Hong Kong-based companies run ports on either side of the canal. And the Chinese regime has poured billions into Panama's infrastructure, security, and telecommunication systems.
Also, the Straits of Magellan, down around the tip of the southern cone from Argentina, and the presence of China and projects and things like that. And so that's what bothers me most, are those two strategic global lines of communication areas that the Chinese have projects in and around those areas.
China plans to build a port near the Strait of Magellan. If realized, it would give Beijing influence over the vital passageway connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. It would also give Beijing closer access to Antarctica. China also runs a space station in Argentina, and the U.S. military is concerned it could be used to collect intelligence on U.S. military satellites. Up north, China has been pushing to build a deep-water port in El Salvador. And even further north, a Chinese spy base has been up and running in Cuba for years, just 100 miles from Florida. Zooming out, China has shown a big interest in Latin America. Chinese port calls increased by 70% from 2014 to 2019. And a high-level U.S. military officer warned that China could use its control of deep-water ports to support global military deployments. Juliet Song, NTD News.
Sportsmanship or censorship, a snapshot of a hug between two celebrating athletes at the Asian Games scrubbed from the Chinese internet. This photo was taken just after Ling Yuwei won gold during the 100-meter hurdles final. She's seen embracing fellow China athlete Wu Yanning. What makes the photo a sensitive one for Beijing? The image shows the two athletes' race numbers next to each other, combining to form 6-4. The digits are a common online reference to the 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre, which took place on June 4th. That day, the Chinese regime deployed troops and tanks to gun down crowds of unarmed students. They had gathered to ask for democracy and better access to education. References to it are blocked by Beijing's internet firewall. The race also happened on October 1st, when the Chinese Communist Party celebrates its founding. Internet censors are particularly strict during the National Day holiday and other occasions meant to highlight the party's rule. The image was quickly removed from popular Chinese social media Weibo, as well as search engine Baidu. Google is blocked in China. This year's Asian Games are happening in the Chinese city of Hangzhou and run through this Sunday. 55 Chinese sailors reportedly died in the hands of Beijing's own trap. According to a leaked UK defense report picked up by the Daily Mail, a Chinese nuclear submarine hit an obstacle designed to ensnare U.S. and British vessels. The onboard oxygen system began to malfunction, poisoning the entire crew. 22 officers, including the captain, are listed among the dead. The incident allegedly took place on August 21st during a mission in the Yellow Sea off the coast of China's Shandong province. Both China and Taiwan have denied all speculation about the incident. That's despite Chinese officials reportedly turning down international assistance when the tragedy occurred. Japan is calling on China to stop banning its seafood. The restrictions started in August when Japan started releasing treated radioactive wastewater from its crippled Fukushima nuclear plant. Now, a second round of the UN-approved release is set to begin Thursday, despite China's seafood ban. Here's more.
Japan is gearing up for another go of wastewater release. That's despite China's ban on all Japanese sea imports following the first batch.
We're properly monitoring the actual numbers of seawater and marine products. They're below the measurement limit, so the safety is confirmed. Many countries understand that.
Apparently, not all countries do. China has accused Japan of using the ocean like a sewer. Russia is reportedly considering following suit on its own seafood ban. And given its close ties to Beijing, the Solomon Islands Prime Minister joined China in denouncing Japan's water release. But Tokyo insists that the operation poses no risk.
We are undecided whether to file a complaint about China's export ban to the WTO immediately. At any rate, we hope to find a resolution within the WTO framework.
Japan's agriculture minister said this during a visit to Malaysia on Wednesday. Malaysia's agriculture minister said no restrictions will be put on Japanese fisheries, adding that no radioactive elements has been detected from the imports so far. Last month, Tokyo approved an emergency fund of over $140 million, all to help its exporters hit by China's ban. Yet according to U.S. Ambassador to Japan, Chinese boats are still catching fish off Japan's coast. On social media platform X, formerly Twitter, he shared photos of what he said were Chinese vessels fishing off Japan's coast on September 15th, post-China's seafood embargo from the same waters.
Over in Europe, a new transparency report reveals Meta shut down thousands of social media accounts covertly run by China that were targeting the UK. It says the 8,000 Facebook and Instagram profiles were part of a network coordinated in Beijing. Meta tied the campaign to a group known as Spamouflage, also known as Dragon Bridge. It's been linked to Chinese law enforcement agencies. On top of covert networks backed by China, Meta also reported that 2 of the largest influence operations it had closed down were linked to Russia. That's all for today's China in Focus on YouTube. We're now sharing a shortened version of our program here after being demonetized for 2 years. Here's what to look out for in our second half. A warning echoes through the Pentagon's halls to Congress. The Defense Department is strapped for cash as hefty shipments of weapons to Ukraine have depleted the U.S. arsenal. What does this financial squeeze mean for Taiwan's security? And does Washington have a backup plan for a worst-case scenario? Plus, a focus on dialogue with China. U.S. senators are looking to meet with Chinese leader Xi Jinping next week. What should we make of the upcoming trip? We sat down with General Robert Spalding, retired U.S. Air Force Brigadier General and author of War Without Rules, for details. The full episode is available on our partner platform, Epic TV. To sign up, click the link down below. Thanks for watching China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. See you tomorrow.